Okay, now let me go ahead and talk about what's sometimes called the issue of excess capacity and efficiency in monopolistic competition. So I'm going to revert back to a more normal looking set of cost curves for this part. And so we're going to go ahead and have a U-shaped average total cost curve. And we're going to have a marginal cost curve that looks like this. And remember, the marginal cost curve crosses the average total cost curve at the minimum of the average total cost curve. And it doesn't quite look like that in my version. So I'll draw it just a little bit differently here. And we know that in the long run equilibrium, we're going to have the demand curve just touching the average total cost curve, so that this firm is charging a price equal average total cost, so it's just breaking even. And the marginal revenue curve would be down here, and this firm is producing that amount. And pretend that these all line up here and I didn't have to curve that line. So what we can see here is, here's the actual quantity this firm is producing. And here, below the minimum of the average total cost curve, is the quantity that would cause this firm to minimize the cost of production. Or put differently, this is the most efficient scale for this firm to operate. And so this firm has excess capacity. It has the capacity to serve this amount, this quantity, efficiently, but in fact it's only producing this amount. And from a certain point of view, there's deadweight loss in this example, because there are units, say right here, where someone's willing to pay that much for it. It only had a marginal cost of that much, and so that gain from trade didn't happen. So some people talk about the deadweight loss due to this excess capacity as that shaded region right there above the marginal cost curve and below the demand curve, just like the deadweight loss from monopoly. So the question often comes up then, is monopolistic competition inefficient? And this sort of, I think, gets into sort of a contrast between a totally ideal world and a more realistic world. I think you want to realize, of course, that we're not having anyone make any economic profits. Effectively, the entry of new firms serves as a kind of automatic regulation of these firms' monopoly power. Because remember, the best we can do probably with a true monopolist is to try and get them to charge price equals average total cost, so that they're not, charging a huge markup and so on and so forth out there. Theoretically, perhaps we could make ourselves better off by having some of these monopolistically competitive firms merge and then putting them under price regulation. That would allow us to get rid of the excess capacity problem, but not have these firms charging a huge markup. But if you sort of think about what that would look like, suppose you think about a medium-sized town and there's maybe like 20 restaurants. And of course those restaurants add value through their variety. If we force them to merge down to 10 restaurants instead, we would have a much smaller amount of variety, and that variety, we can't show it easily in this kind of diagram, but it definitely has significant value. So I myself don't tend to worry about this issue of excess capacity and any potential deadweight loss there. One thing that's worth noticing is a perfectly competitive firm is not willing to pay anything to sell more at its current price, because a perfectly competitive firm can already sell as much as it wants at the current market price. So a perfectly competitive firm typically does not engage in advertisement. Monopoly firms also don't engage in advertisement. They would like to be able to sell more at their current price and not have to cut price to sell more, but it's very difficult to actually increase sales if you already have 100% of the market. But for a monopolistically competitive firm, there definitely is a significant benefit to making more sales at your current price, because essentially your incremental profit per unit is equal to this gap between the price you charge and your current marginal cost. So monopolistically competitive firms actually do engage in a lot of advertising and other marketing, and this is in contrast again to something like a perfectly competitive firm or a monopoly firm.